Assalamu alaikum, everyone. We start our Quran study today, inshallah, from verse 73 of chapter 11, Hud. Seek refuge to God from Satan the rejected. In the name of God, most gracious, most merciful. They said, "Do you find it strange for God? God has bestowed his mercy and blessing upon you, O inhabitants of Shrine. He is praiseworthy, glorious." So this verse is talking about the angels. So then they said are the angels that were dispatched to people of Lot, and they went to Abraham and his wife initially to give them good news of Isaac and Jacob. And we read that Abraham's wife laughed when she heard about the news and said, "How can woe to me? How can I have a child at this age? And here's my old husband." Now the angels are saying, "Do you find it strange for God? God has bestowed His mercy and blessing upon you, O inhabitants of the shrine. He is praiseworthy, glorious." So what it means is that really, if God wills something to happen, it doesn't really matter what the situation is that you are in. If God wills for something to happen, it will happen. We know that Abraham had Ishmael in the old age, and after that, God says because he abandoned his father that was objecting to God, and the people that were objecting God and the message, he gave him Isaac and Jacob as gifts. So Isaac and Jacob, which is the son of Isaac, were gifts to Abraham also in his old age. And it's a blessing from God. He prayed for children, Abraham. We know that. We have a verse where Abraham says, he says, praise God that he gave me Ishmael and Isaac in the old age. He answers the prayers. So we know that he prayed for that for his children, and God blessed him with two children that went and become prophets, and he guided both of his children out of his mercy and blessing. So if God wills, it will happen. It may not happen at the time that you expect it to happen, but it will happen at a perfect time. And when it happens, you forget about all the difficulties that you were in, or all the time that you were longing for that thing that you were praying for. So if God wills for it to happen, it will happen, and it will happen at a perfect time, inshallah. So inshallah, if there's anything that the believers want, inshallah, God answers their prayers, and He would give it to them. But be patient, inshallah. When Abraham's fear subsided and the good news was delivered to him, the good news of having a son and a grandson, and that are blessed. So he proceeded to argue with us on behalf of Lot's people. Indeed, Abraham was clement, extremely kind and obedient. Of course, the messengers told Abraham that they're dispatched the people of Lot to destroy that land, and Abraham and Lot, of course, Lot was the nephew of Abraham, if I'm not mistaken, according to Genesis. And there were the people that actually had ran away from the disbelievers. And so Abraham was in a different land, Lot was in a different land, but still they were relatives, and they were both righteous people. So Lot was a messenger, but Abraham was a prophet. Indeed, Abraham was clement, extremely kind, and obedient. So we know that Abraham was clement. God mentions it when he prayed for his father, because he had promised him, and now because he's arguing on behalf of Lot's people. But then the angels say, "O Abraham, refrain from this. Your Lord's judgment has been issued. They have incurred unavoidable retribution." So God has willed for it to happen. So it doesn't matter what Abraham says or asks. It's not going to change God's will or God's decision. This is again, an example that there's no intercession. So Abraham couldn't intercede on behalf of people of Lot because the people of Lot were destined to be annihilated. They were not a believing people. So God had decided for it to happen. And and the angels tell Abraham, so refrain from this. And it's just like there's no point arguing about it. God's judgment has been issued, and they will be annihilated. Sorry, is there any? Okay, sorry. I thought I heard someone type something. Right. Homosexuality condemned. We know the people of Lot were homosexuals, and they were to the point that there was no going back. When our messengers went to Lot, they were mistreated, and he was embarrassed by their presence. He said, "This is a difficult day." His people came rushing. They had grown accustomed to their sinful acts. He said, "Oh, my people, it would be purer for you if you take my daughters instead. You shall reverence God. Do not embarrass me with my guests. Have you not one reasonable man amongst you?" They said, "You know well that we have no need for your daughters. You know exactly what we want." He said, "I wish I were strong enough or had a powerful ally." The angel said, "O Lot, we are your Lord's messenger, and these people cannot touch you. You shall leave with your family during the night, and let not any one of you look back, except your wife. She is condemned along with those who are condemned. Their appointed time is the morning. Is not the morning soon enough?" Sodom and Gomorrah destroyed. When our judgment came, we turned it upside down, and we showered it with hard, devastating rocks. Such rocks were designated by your Lord to strike the transgressors. SubhanAllah. Of course, God saves the believers, and this is God's promise. So the angels were appointed to destroy Sodom and Gomorrah because um, they had sinned to the point that there was no return for them, and they wouldn't have repented. And we read from these verses the state that they were in. They're just like really shameful people, shameless people, um, that were after these angels that had come to Lot's house. Lot is begging them just to go, and they're not. They're arguing with him, and Lot is very embarrassed. Says, "I wish I was strong enough or had a powerful ally." And then the angels say, "Well, they're going to be destroyed. Take your family. Do not look back, except for your wife. She's um, condemned along with those who are condemned." Again, the logic that we've got here is that the wife was definitely not a homosexual person. Well, not definitely, but the guess is that she was not a homosexual person, but she was one that tolerated it and she was okay with it. Probably didn't accept Lot's message in a sense that homosexuality is a sin and should be prohibited. And because of that, she was condemned with the sinful people. So that's a lesson again for us. We should not um, accept sinful acts, and we should not promote it, and we should not encourage it. Messenger says we don't do homosexual people any good by accepting them. We should, if we do care about them, really, we should talk them out of it, because the end is horrendous. It's a great scene. It's a grave scene. There's no return if they go down that route. Um, and we all know about hell. It's a terrible destination. So if anybody really cares about someone, they should really talk them out of sin and invite them to the path of God. And the example that we've got here is the wife of Lot, which was okay with the sinful act apparently, and she was condemned and annihilated along with the sinful people. Shuaib wanted the same message. To Midian, we sent their brother Shuaib. He said, "O my people, worship God. You have no God, no other God beside him. Do not cheat when you measure or weigh. I see that you are prosperous, and I fear for you the retribution of an overwhelming day. O my people, you shall give full measure and full weight, equitably. Do not cheat the people out of their rights, and do not roam the earth corruptingly. Whatever God provides for you, no matter how small, is far better for you if you are really believers. I am not a guardian over you." Um, so the people of Midian, which is the current land of Palestine, were quite corrupted people. We read here that they used to earn their money by cheating people and not giving the measure or weight in full or correctly. And Shuaib has gone to them from God, reciting his revelations, because we know Shuaib was a prophet, and we've got a verse where it says, like, and God tells the messenger of the covenant, the people of Midian, you were not present when we sent them Shuaib, reciting our revelations to them. So he was actually giving God's message to them, but they were we will read what they tell to him, but they were rejecting it really. And it is beautiful where he says, whatever God provides for you, no matter how small, is far better for you if you're really believers. I am not a guardian over you. If we really believe in God and we know that He is sufficient for the believers and He is the one that provides for the believers, not only for the believers, for everyone, we would submit to Him and we are happy with whatever God has provided for us, and do not follow the path of Satan in order to increase our worldly material life, enhance our worldly wealth. Because at the end of the day, this is just like a mirage for us. The worldly life is just a test, and compared to our eternal life, it's nothing. So we really have to reverence God and believe in the fact that God suffices to believers. Whatever He provides for us is the best, inshallah. And do not do things or do not act in a way that God does not approve of it. Inshallah. They said, "O Shuaib, does your religion dictate upon you that we must abandon our parents' religion or running our businesses in any manner we choose? Surely you are known for being clement, wise." It's interesting. Um, they're telling Shuaib that was living amongst them that you're a clever, you're a wise person and you're a clement person. When he starts talking about God, they don't accept him and they want to stone him. And what they tell him really is just like, oh, so your religion is telling us how to run our business or abandon our parents' religion? This is again something that people, well, telling the messenger of the covenant, they didn't like the fact that he was the one receiving the miracle of 19. They didn't like the fact that he was announcing his messengership, and all of these, they prevented them from believing. But we know that God, they are questioning God's wisdom. God chooses whomever He wills to send his message down to him. We don't decide for God. We hear the message, inshallah, and we obey it. So he said, "Oh, my people, what if I have solid proof from my Lord? What if he has provided me with a great blessing? It is not my wish to commit what I enjoin you from. I only wish to correct as many wrongs as I can. My guidance depends totally on God. I have put my trust in him. To him I have totally submitted." Again, this is very beautiful where he says, Shoaib says, my guidance depends totally on God. Absolutely, guidance comes from God to whoever he chooses. If one wills to be guided, God sees to it and sends his guidance to them. I've put my trust in him, and to him I'm totally submitted. So of course they're asking him to live their way and to abandon his message, but he says, "It's not my wish to commit what I enjoin you from. I only wish to correct as many wrongs as I can. And O my people, do not be provoked by your opposition to me into incurring the same disasters as the people of Noah or the people of Hud or the people of Saleh and the people of Lot are not too far from you." Again, it's the same. He says, if you don't like me, do not reject the message because you don't like me, because you're opposing me. Again, if it's the message that is important. The messenger, God chooses whomever he wills. It's the message that is from God. And the messenger himself should submit to the message of God, to God alone. And you shall implore your Lord for forgiveness, then repent to him. My Lord is most merciful, kind. It says, ask God to forgive you and then repent and reform. And that's when the repentance get accepted. My Lord is most merciful, kind. They said, "Oh, Shuaib." And we read all of these messages that the messengers give to people. What they only say is really live a righteous life. That's what they're telling them. Believe in God alone and live a righteous life. But they can't because they are so occupied with this worldly life that they cannot change the way that they're living their life because this worldly life has captured them and they are thirsty about the materials of this life that they cannot live their life differently. They said, "Oh, Shuaib, we do not comprehend many of the things you are telling us, and we see that you are powerless amongst us. If it were not for your tribe, we would have stoned you. You have no value for us." And that's the response that they're giving to the messenger of God. We don't understand. We don't comprehend many of the things that you're saying. um, and they say, if it wasn't really because of your tribe, we would have stoned you. Now Shoaib says, "Oh my people, does my tribe command a greater respect than God? And we don't reverence God. You're afraid of my tribe. Is this why you have been heedless of him? Him is God. My Lord is fully aware of everything you do. O my people, go on doing what you wish, and so will I. You will certainly find out which of us will incur shameful retribution. You will find out who the liar is. Just wait in anticipation, and I will wait in anticipation along with you." So we read in other verses that the leaders tell him, if you don't revert from your way, we will kick you out or we will stone you. And, these leaders lead their people into hell along with themselves. And now I think like this is the end of it really. Some people have believed with Shuaib, some people haven't believed with him. Now he says, "This is it. You wait and I'll wait and we'll see what happens." When our judgment came, we saved Shuaib and those who believed with him by mercy from us. As for the evil ones, they were struck by a disaster that left them dead in their homes. It was as though they never existed. Thus Midian perished, just like Thamud had perished before them. Again, God saves the believers. So he saved Shuaib and the believers, by mercy from him. God is merciful towards the believers. And for the evil ones, they were annihilated and they were sent to hell as though they never existed, and they perished. Moses. We sent Moses with our sign and a profound authority to Pharaoh and his elders, but they followed the command of Pharaoh, and Pharaoh's command was not wise. He will lead his people on the day of resurrection all the way to hell. What a miserable abode to live in. Subhanallah. We've all read about the history of Moses and Pharaoh. Pharaoh, he was a tyrant on earth, and despite all the miracles that God and Moses showed him, well, of course, by God's will, Moses showed him, he didn't believe, and he said these are magic. All the plagues that they came to them, they told Moses, ask your God to relieve us and to relieve it. As soon as God removed those plagues, they reverted back to idolatry or whatever they were doing. So they never believed. God says they listened to people, his people. His people followed the commands of the Pharaoh, the tyrant guy who was opposing God. And on the day of resurrection, he will lead all those that followed him to hell. And that's the case with all the leaders. If we follow the leaders that say anything different from whatever God has told us or whatever God has sent to us through his messenger or through his scriptures, those are the idols that people have set up beside God. And on the day of judgment, all these leaders take their followers into hell. So you have to be very careful about who we listen to and who we set up as our leaders. Lessons to be learned. This is news from the past communities that we narrate to you. Some are still standing and some have vanished. We never wronged them. They wronged their own souls. Their guides, whom they invoked beside God, couldn't help them in the least when the judgment of your Lord came. In fact, they only ensured their doom. The Pharaoh could never help himself or anybody else that was following him when God's judgment came, when they were drowning in the sea. Nobody could help them. In fact, Pharaoh said, "Oh, I believe now in the God of Moses," and which was too late, you know. And again, it's exactly the same for any community. All the leaders and all those people, all the leaders that people set up beside God as their gods, they cannot help themselves, let alone the others. And exactly the same in the day of judgment, even worse on the day of judgment. Such was the retribution enforced by your Lord when the communities transgressed. Indeed, his retribution is painful, devastating. This should be a lesson for those who fear the retribution of the hereafter. This is the day when all the people would be summoned, a day to be witnessed. We have appointed a specific time for it to take place. The day it comes to pass, no soul will utter a single word, except in accordance with his will. Some will be miserable, and some will be happy. As for the miserable ones, they will be in hell, wherein they sigh and wail. SubhanAllah. So God says here, all these people that were annihilated, God sent them the messenger, right? God sent them the message. God sent them the messenger, but they rejected it. They rejected God's message. They rejected God's messenger. God says to every community we send a warner. So every community would have received a warner. And if they reject the warner, and if they reject God's messenger and God really, nothing can help them. And they are the ones that have wronged their own souls. They're the ones that have invoked God's retribution upon themselves. you know? So we know that this is a test that we're living, and the test is to determine who will believe in God and lead a righteous life and who will reject God. So there is nothing in between. It's either black or white. You either believe in God or you don't believe in God. If you don't believe in God, God says, as for those who disbelieve, they will be in hell, wherein they sigh and wail. Such a miserable place to be. And those who believe in God, of course, the gardens of Eden, God says, open their gates for them. So it is really up to us to decide how we want to live our lives and where we want to end up. Inshallah, who would be one of those who would be happy on the day of resurrection. Inshallah. So on that note, I am going to stop here. Thank you. Inshallah. Thank you, everyone. So I was reading through the dates in Genesis, and in the Quran, whenever we look at thank you, whenever we look at Jacob, usually Isaac and Jacob usually come together in a majority of the verses, as a blessing that God bestowed upon Abraham. And I was reading, and he lived. So Abraham lived to see Isaac being born. No, Jacob being born. Of course, Isaac was his son, and then Jacob was his grandson. So he lived to see Jacob as well. So in Genesis, I think Abraham lived 175 years, so he did see his grandson as well. And that's why when God gives him a news of both Isaac and Jacob, so he sees both of them. Praise God. So is there any comment or any question by any chance?
Yeah, mashallah. Sorry, I was just getting out the airport, but yeah, like kind of thought the same thing about Lot's wife, and like it's a good reminder to not you know be tolerant of that type of terrible behavior. So she was one that probably was, and you can see the result of it. And I think even in the Bible, it kind of goes into that too. I think she was kind of like what you were touching on.
Yeah, so the instruction that the angels give him says you go with your family. So the wife goes with them. And then they inform Lot that you shouldn't let any of your family to look back except for your wife. So if she wanted to look back, don't tell her to not to look back. That was God's will. So she went with them, but it was God's will that Lot wouldn't prevent her from looking back. And that's what I got from I understood from the verses. If I read the verse, inshallah, again, where I can find it. There you go. So it's verse number 81. O Lot, we are your Lord's messenger, and these people cannot touch you. You shall leave with your family during the night. So you leave with the family. And let not any one of you look back. So don't let anyone look back except your wife.
Yeah,
Uh,
that's true. I think
yeah.
that's a good point because like she was, I guess, still desiring that old lifestyle. Because I mean, imagine like your home and city and everything just getting completely destroyed. You know, and you re-emigrating, and the fact that she looked back, I think says a lot. How she was maybe not happy with what she was being told to do. And she still, I guess, lusted after the old things, materials, or you know.
So I think in response, Shima, could you, sorry, Mona, could you repeat the part about the ages of Isaac and Ishmael, what you were saying about the Bible?
Not Isaac and Ishmael. So Abraham. So Abraham
Okay.
lived to see Jacob. So apparently he was 175 when he passed away, and he lived to see Jacob, his grandson, to be born as well. So I don't know, born or whatever stage of his life he was, but he did live to see both, of course, Isaac and Jacob. And I was just saying
Okay.
that. So whenever
Yeah.
God said um, that the good news that the angel said they give him good news of both Isaac and Jacob. So he lives to see them.
Okay. So yeah, I mean, so I wanted to make sure I heard it correctly because the thing is that I believe that we should not use a Bible for his uh, as a factual reference, and the figures that we extrapolate from these verses, because Bible is not a very reliable source of information for any sort of historical reference. Even like, for example, if you look at the Bible, it says God I mean, apparently the earth was created 5,000 years ago based on the Bible, right? And so there's so many things in the Bible that people have written and injected and distorted that we cannot use it as a factual reference for anything in history, let alone any type of ages of anyone, because of the inconsistencies that we find with these references. So I mean, anything that we reference from the Quran from the Bible should be confirmed in the Quran, right? So I wouldn't really count on it too much. I mean, I wouldn't even reference it at all. I would um, just go by whatever the Quran says, whatever God says, whatever's confirmed in the Quran. And if the Bible confirms that, I can use that, as a confirmation in the sense of, okay, the Quran confirms it, and based on that confirmation from the Quran, I can then rely on that information. But otherwise, I wouldn't. I think that's very important for us to remember. Um, that's all I wanted to add there.
Okay, inshallah.
I think also about Lot and the people. I think as far as the messenger was talking about not really. I mean, if I'm not mistaken, wasn't talking about exactly accepting or not accepting in that sense. Like he was talking about giving them their rights, I guess. Right. So, if like supporting
Yes,
that
yes, giving them the
information, right?
rights. You would, yes,
Rights.
you will not do them any favor by giving them good any to give
Hmm.
them any rights, something like that. Yes, that's true.
Hmm.
Yeah, didn't he make a comment like they were demanding their rights until they got AIDS? They got inflicted with that or something.
Hmm. Right. Yeah.
That's a retribution.
Right. 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 Yeah, I mean they have aids now to selectively annihilate these people,
Right, and you only
and
see it
that's why you.
with pretty much them, So like that should, I mean,
Hmm.
it is still like speaks volumes. I mean, even to like, I mean, people like non-submitters, they you look at that
Hmm.
and that's like, because I've talked to a few people that like, that makes them think. I'm like, man, why do you think, And they kind of like, yeah, they're being punished, you know,
Hmm.
because it's very, the fact that it hits just them, like exactly selective annihilation. Should really tell them they're doing something like terribly wrong. And they also have I think the transvestites, they have like one of the highest suicide rates. I was talking
Hmm.
to my dad, or he was telling me about that. It was a few years ago, but the amount of suicide rates they have is unparalleled. Um,
Hmm.
I don't know, what today's, but that was only like a few years ago. He was telling me. So, you know,
Right. Right. Yeah, I mean, especially those types of people. I mean, it's. I mean, there's definitely a lot going on. When you go to that extent. Like I understand like how that would work.
I mean, the worst part is the churches um,
Mm-hmm.
accepting it and giving them the rights and all that, although they know that it is a sin. So if they really believe in God and if they really believe in God's scripture, they'll try to talk them out of it rather than, just going full force ahead. Yes, of course. And they have, homosexual priests and, people that talk about God and invite people to God. They themselves are fully in sin, and this is not this is big. We read people a lot and God annihilates them. That's how bad it is, and they accept it, and they you know promote it. So that's the worst part, and people follow them, follow these churches. They go to these churches. This is an example of the leader that leads people to annihilation or to retribution.
Yeah, I mean, and now, you also have not just churches that accept. You also have like mosques for gays and LGBT people. I mean, homosexuals, aka in the U.S. Also, I'm looking. It says there's one now in South Africa, one in Australia, at least. And so they're kind of somehow justifying that too, which is
that's
absurd.
crazy. Yeah, it's like they're almost, would you say they're acquiescing to the people's wishes, to get more followers. Because like I've seen them do this,
Yeah.
like with the whole humanism and that new age stuff, and teaching this prosperity doctrine, like in churches,
Hmm.
because it brings in a ton of money and ton of people.
Hmm.
But like
Yeah.
the messenger talked about, compromising your convictions. You give Satan a claim. So even though if you
Hmm.
could do something or withhold something from, like, whatever you're pushing or promoting or teaching. I mean, we're given like examples of that, and it's like they're wanting to, I guess, bring in the most people possible and be the
Mm.
biggest. And yeah.
Yeah, I think wasn't there something in the news this year about also the Pope and the Vatican, something about the Vatican, blessing the gay marriages also. I remember reading something about that.
Those are quite strict. If they do that, then
Yeah, I
that's
heard something too, brother.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, I mean they already have, so many other issues, but it says Vatican approves blessings for same-sex couples in landmark ruling. It says the Vatican said on Monday, uh, approved by Pope Francis, that Roman Catholic priests can administer blessings to same-sex couples as long as they're not part of regular church rituals or liturgies.
yeah. It says the Vatican has stressed that allowing priests to bless same-sex couple is not an endorsement of homosexuality, but neither is it blasphemous. After some Catholic bishops reacted negatively, so it's not blasphemous, and it's not an endorsement of homosexuality. So what is it exactly that you're trying to do? You see, Satan is moving forward
Mhm.
with these people.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like he's trying to. I remember something the messenger said. I guess maybe it could apply here, but like humans out Satan, they're gonna out Satan. Like with their just ridiculous. Because it's really they're becoming so bold with it, and then you have like Catholics that are still trying to defend it, and then they swear they're or whoever, Christian Catholics, whatever, is trying to defend these people.
Yeah, I think another thing that we see here, obviously in the Quran, is in reference to the people of Shuaib and how it refers to us, you know, um, the God reminding us to be honest with people and to not cheat, and we see that the biggest cheaters are well, one of the biggest cheaters that we see that we come across is is people that call themselves Muslims, and it's evident, like if you ever visit any of the Muslim countries, quote unquote Muslim countries. I mean, you'll see the amount of corruption that's prevalent in these countries is quite phenomenal. So like, and it's so common, like at every level, and yet I mean they know the verses that refer to Muhammad as an example, but you'll never ever hear them reference any verses that talk about honesty or integrity, uh, you know, um, and just, I mean, the hypocrisy is amazing.
Absolutely, and like you said, it's very much in the Muslim countries that are happening, and there are videos of them all over the internet. They show, like, for example, they want to sell chickens. They put chickens in the water so that they soak water, and when they sell it, they're quite fat and chunky. They when you put them aside for about a day or so, all the water comes out, and you end up with just like really thin chicken, or the weights that they make. It says 1 kilo on it, but it's like, I don't know, 500 grams or 700 grams in general. So they charge you for a kilo, but they will only give you like half a kilo of goods or whatever you bought. And it's everywhere in the Muslim world. I mean, you can see them in the markets that you go. You actually walk in the markets and you see people actually cheating you. Something that is like, for example, $20, 20 pounds, they sell to you for 50 pounds. Honestly, I was sitting in Spain and this guy came, oh, you're Muslim? Yes, I'm Muslim. He wanted to sell something to me for like 200 euros. And I was just like, look, I don't have cash with me, so maybe just like another day tomorrow if you're here. And I went to a market, a nearby local market, and it was 40 euros. So he wanted to sell it to me for 200 euros by saying that, oh, I'm a Muslim. Oh, you're a Muslim sister. Please help me and stuff like that. I mean, I would have helped him genuinely if he really needed, but trying to cheat someone out of it, it's just it doesn't really leave a good taste. Um, lying to you like that. Or, for example, taking a taxi in a Muslim country, they charge you extra, they take you extra mile where you don't really have to. Why? Why do you do that? You're in a Muslim country, you've got Quran in your hand, and these are straightforward verses. They just need to read it. And I'm sure they've read it and I'm sure they've heard about it in the mosque that they go to. They sometimes mention this kind of things. But who is to listen? Like you said, the hypocrisy and the disbelief is just like unbelievable in majority of the countries that call themselves Muslim.
Yeah, I've noticed. It's so true. Like I was watching something on YouTube, like in Egypt. Like they prey on tourists, or I mean, even if you live there, they're doing exactly that same sales, like bombard you. And but no, I had a question. So wait, what were they doing with the chickens? They would soak them in water to make them heavier.
Yes, so it absorbs water overnight and it becomes quite heavy. So when they sell it to you, it's like 5 kilos chicken. You take it home, you leave it, in the fridge overnight. The pot that you put it in, it becomes full
Okay.
of water,
I
and you end up with like a 2 kilos worth of chicken.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
it absorbs a bunch of water, and you're just
Yes.
buying like a waterlogged chicken.
Yes.
Uh,
Yes.
I mean, maybe that's why they're so in such in bad condition. Maybe that's what stuff they're doing. Uh, that's true.
Mm. Brother Salami has a question. Do people in the film industry face risks when working on projects that start with negative stuff but end up doing good? For example, a lot of Netflix shows have explicit scenes. My friend recently directed a project with a kissing scene and witchcraft, saying it's for a good cause. I'm confused as if stopping something with bad parts could still have a positive impact. So that's Brother Salami's question, if anyone's got any comment. I mean, to me, some of these are really personal matters, Brother Salami, if I'm going to answer. You as a person that understands, the requirements of your religion, you personally know whether what you're doing is right or wrong. So you really ask God for his guidance to guide you or just to get you out of it if it's something that you're not comfortable with or you don't have good feeling about it or things like that. I mean, if I go and ask somebody else, oh, do you think this is right or wrong? Yes, you can probably consult it, but I personally know in my heart whether what I'm doing is right or wrong. That's my feeling about these kind of things. What do you think about what I do, or what do you think about my job? I mean, if you're doing it and you know about it more than I do, and it's really between you and God to decide how to do it. I mean, of course, if anybody else have got any insight that probably have an experience over it. Um,
I mean, facing risk while working on projects, negative stuff. So I mean, like I guess maybe with the people he's working around, or I mean, because you're gonna be like with me. I've not so much the job I have now, but past jobs. I mean, like I'd work around people with that will talk about this stuff. You know, coworkers or just people from different companies, and it's sometimes. I mean, it's something like you can't control what comes out their mouth or what they say they're going to watch on Saturday night or what they did last weekend. Um, but yeah, I mean, it's kind of like what Sister Mona said. I mean, you know the ins and outs of like these people and the actual job and stuff you're doing. Um, but I mean, God knows your heart, so you know. I mean, if your friend's saying he's saying it's for a good cause, that's that's him. That's and obviously we know what's what. But I mean, it's not your. I don't think it's your job at all. I mean, to convince him otherwise, because if he thinks doing X, Y, Z is okay, I mean, that's he's gonna believe that. I mean, the best you could do is maybe invite him. Um, right, right, yeah. You don't. Brother Salami said that it's his judgment. Right, I do not have to convince him. Yeah, you can invite him, but like I've there's been people I've worked around that one thing that bothered me was just the use of profanity, But I mean, it was very little compared to what I used to have to. But it's just the way they talk out here, and I guess in this industry or whatever. But but yeah, like I maybe brought something up, but I mean, even then, you could say something the wrong way, and if you're not careful, it could create tension and stuff. So it's kind of it's like kind of what the Quran said. You invite with wisdom and kind enlightenment, and I mean after that, I mean to each everybody has their own neck to worry about, and these people you deal with out of necessity, and they have their deeds. We have our deeds, and that's his judgment. So. Even though he may think he's guided, thinking that he's doing something good, or it's don't feel like it's something you have to constantly, talk, talk him out of or tell him he's wrong, etc.
So, brother Sami, I think so. Yeah, so I think your question is about like the greater. Is there like such a thing as the greater good, right? If he's saying that he's doing the thing, and even though it includes the bad stuff, and he's directly involved in doing the bad stuff, that he thinks that overall this thing is for a good cause, and maybe it's promoting some positive message like overall, but it has bad elements in it, right? And is it justified to be a part of it? So I would say, like, God tells us in the Quran, to cooperate in matters that are righteous, but not to cooperate in matters that are sinful and evil, right? So I would look at it objectively. Like, if I have to be part of a movie, let's say, and the movie is all about, creating awareness about, let's say, slavery or something, and or sex trafficking, right? And so, but I think it becomes a little bit difficult when, let's say, you have to, you know, uh, direct a kissing scene, like you said. So, I mean, I mean, you could choose not to be a part of it based on that. Uh, but I think it can be like kind of confusing, right? I mean, for example, like you said, um, I'm confused if stopping something with bad parts could still have a positive impact. Um, so I mean, I guess like you don't have to like, if you're, let's say, if you're making a movie about something like that. I mean, the topic is, let's say, sex trafficking. You don't necessarily have to show elements as a director, I'm saying, in a movie that shows how it's done, like going through like all the different details, right? I mean, you can make a movie if you want to make a movie about something without these bad elements, right? So I would not um, want to be a part of any of the bad elements if I'm directly involved in preparing, right? As a director, I would refuse to direct, things that go against my religion, and go against my moral values. And I would only participate in things. I'm not saying that maybe don't do the entire project because of it, but at least for the parts that have these kind of elements, like I would make a stand and say I don't want to direct anything like that. I wouldn't participate in that. But I guess overall, if this person has a choice, maybe to work on other alternative projects that are all good and there's nothing bad in it, then they might as they. I mean, obviously that's a better, you know, s- choice to work on. Let's say you have two projects, one has these bad elements and the other is all about doing good stuff. Why don't you just work on projects that are all good? So definitely, like I wouldn't compromise on religion just because the rest of the stuff is good. Like people go to wars and kill innocent people because they say it's for the greater good. It saves more lives and protects more people by killing innocent people in the process, right? Right, and this always say it's for the greater good, right? They go and murder a bunch of people and so many things in the name of the greater good, right? And so I think that's just one way of Satan promoting, bad things through these elements, under the guise of, positivity and good. So we should just say, well, okay, you want to be positive, just why don't you just get involved in things that are just totally positive instead of doing things that are mixed with bad things, right?
Yeah, that's a good answer, brother. I understand his question better now. Now that you, don't think I really. But yeah, the compromise was the same thing that came to my head. It's like, yeah, I don't need to put my hand in the fire to show, wave around and show people, like, look, this is what fire does. Don't put your hand in the fire, people. So, but yeah, that's like your answer. I agree.
Mashallah, thanks. Yeah. Yeah, so I think Salami, you said the response is usually, how about showing the contrast? It doesn't make sense. I mean, everybody knows what kissing looks like, so
Yeah,
showing two people kissing doesn't really serve anything.
yeah. Some of these people, like, what do you mean by that showing the contrast? Like they're trying to show like the kind of what Brother Suleiman was touching on, like the evil, or showing the evil side of things in order to give a better quote unquote picture. I'm just asking because I've seen this like ideology trend of like this thinking. I don't know the name for it, but it's yeah, exactly, yeah, that's what I'm thinking. Yeah, this whole black and white, dark light, blah blah blah. It's yeah, that's just their thinking. Um, yeah, I've known people that think like that, like, oh, the black white, you get the ups and downs, everything. This whole balance, Buddhist, or no, I don't want to say Buddhist, but yeah, I don't. That's just there. Yeah, I wouldn't put my faith in that. That's they're just trying to sound like pseudo intellectuals and this like uh like they understand
Yeah, I
something
think
about nature.
mhm. Yeah, I think, and it also sounds like the devil coming from the right side.
Yeah, that's true too. Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, it's that false, like, I've heard that argument, like, oh, well, how would you know what is what if you don't have, and that you can, if you start getting into like relativity and stuff, like, well, no, this isn't bad because relatively comparing this action to something that's like way worse, yeah, it's a flawed mentality. It's a defeated argument. That's just I've seen people hop on that type of thinking. I mean, because like when in my younger days, I was read a lot into it, but I never like adopted it or nothing. Yeah, it's just kind of like Brother Suleiman said, just avoid don't compromise and just avoid the participate in the good, clean stuff, and then um, that's that.
Assalamu alaikum. Are we talking on the verses or are we off topic now?
Assalamu alaikum, Shivajan. Um, we're we're off topicing at the moment, so feel
Okay,
free.
mashallah. So I didn't get a chance to listen to the session, inshallah. I will do it later. And there's something I want to mention, and I appreciate any opportunity that I could correct it this time and inshallah next Saturday. I mentioned something last Saturday, and I mentioned that it was a question posed by Brother Justin. So I wanted to just correct it. I said something wrong, and based on the audios by the Messenger of the Covenant, praise be to God. Now I know the truth. So I just wanted to correct that, inshallah. And the question was, were we in heaven? And were we ever in heaven before coming here? And so I said, no, heaven, we were never in heaven, and heaven is a reward, and we never experienced being in heaven. And that's actually wrong, because according to audio number 10, the 1 hour, 13 minutes and 56 seconds, you can listen to that, inshallah. So the Messenger of the Covenant said that I'm going to start from this part that says, just give me a second. So yeah, basically it says, we were in heaven, and we were in a different rank. I mean, in a particular specific rank. And then we committed that crime, so we fell here. Now our job is to redeem ourselves, and we can we can redeem ourselves to the same rank, or to higher or lower, depending on how hard we work or how much we develop our soul. So when we go back, we are gonna fit back into God's kingdom among the angels. We just go back to the same situation as before the feud, only only with a new rank, depending on what we do. So it was a question previously asked by one of the members of that masjid, that the Messenger of the Covenant was there actually, and we have the audios. Praise be to God. So it's good to know. And the heaven with the capital H actually is referring to paradise, according to the Quran and to the authorized translation and the audios by the Messenger. Thank you.
Yeah, Shima, but the capital H is not referenced by the messenger, right? Did he say heaven with the capital H?
No,
Because the
there is
capital
another
H.
instance that he says heaven or paradise. I actually have that
Mhm.
audio as well. Yes.
Right, but I'm just saying about the heaven with the capital H part.
No, in the
Like,
authorized translation, he put it with a capital H, and that's what I assume. I'm not
right.
making any
Okay.
assumptions,
Mhm.
here. It's just
No, no, I know. But I'm
mm,
just saying, like, the when you say the capital H, like, I just want to know, like, was it said with the capital H or?
But in
um,
Solomon, we've got heavens as well, and there's an audio
Yeah,
that
the heaven.
clarifies the heavens mean the
Uh-huh.
skies, means the universes, and then
Mhm.
there's a heaven which means paradise. So that's different from the heavens that God says
Mhm.
we will create the heavens and all that. So
Mhm.
seven universes,
Yeah,
seven
yeah.
skies.
I mean,
That's different. Yeah.
yeah. I mean, exactly. I think the heavens, like when we talk about the heaven, like it includes the high society, right? And that's where we were. But for example, when God says, there's paradise, one for the jinns, one for the humans, one higher heaven and one lower heaven, that's not where the angels live. That's not for angels. That's just for humans and jinns. And that was the only place where Adam and Eve were. Angels were not living there, right? Because it's not created for angels. So heaven in general, you can include the high society, right? But it doesn't. But you can't say the paradise that God has created, which God says is one for the humans, one for the jinns, is just heaven. Like it's a part of heaven. It's part of
Yeah, that was my
the whole
understanding
thing.
from everything
Yeah,
I,
yeah. So
exactly.
Shima, what you were
Paradise
saying
is in the
before,
heaven, but it's not
yeah,
heaven.
which yeah. So what you were saying before was accurate. That paradise is different in that sense. So the heaven, when you say heaven, heaven can include, the paradise for the jinns and the humans, but that's not all what heaven is, right? Because we lived in the high society, the high heaven and low heaven are specifically for jinns and humans. That is a category that was created after the feud, right? So I think we should be clear on that, because otherwise it would say that paradise, there's one paradise for the jinns, or I mean one paradise for angels, but the angels ranking is different. They didn't participate in the test, right? So they didn't have that intense incentive to get something as a reward uh, for choosing God in this test and coming down and taking the test. So it's still my understanding that when God talks about paradise, it's talking about the paradise where Adam and Eve once lived, which is two heavens, or two paradises, one for the jinns, one for the humans, and you have lower heaven and higher heaven, we call it, right? But in general, when you talk about heaven, and I know it's a confusing terminology because it seems like they're being used interchangeably, but angels, if you just think about the part that when God talks about angels, God says that there's one for the jinns and one for the humans. So the angels definitely don't belong in the same place, but
so how
collectively
come
speaking,
how come the messenger is saying that we are going to fit back into God's kingdom among the angels? I mean, that's why I'm
yeah,
um
we're gonna
yes.
fit back in God's kingdom among the angels. That doesn't mean that it's gonna be in the same paradise. That they're gonna be in the same paradise with jinns and humans, right? Yeah, I mean, in collectively, like when I talk about planet Earth, and I talk about the United States, and I say we'll go back to, let's say we're on a different planet, and I say we're going to planet Earth. Yeah, planet Earth also includes the United States, but doesn't mean that everybody's going to the United States. Some people are going to other countries too. Does that make sense?
I'm still unclear on that because, yeah, I mean,
Well, first of all, like if you're unclear, like let me just say that, one point is that we have to understand that, for example, when we look at the audios and the videos, and it's very, very important, because I think some people in the past have taken that route to take themselves to get themselves lost, which is that, when we look at the audios and the videos, I mean, we have to understand that the messenger is not bringing new laws or things. And when you see information that seems to like go against the Quran, in a way you're interpreting it based on how it's being explained, we have to know that there's something wrong with the perspective with which we're looking at it, because the audios and the videos are mere explanations of what is already revealed by God in the Quran. So the messenger is not bringing anything new. He's only explaining what is already in the Quran. So if you look into the Quran, and if you look into the messenger's explanations, and you come across something that looks like is something totally new, there's definitely maybe something that you need to consider. And so when we look at the audios and videos, we have to look at it in the light of in the light of the verses from the Quran. Like, for example, I think one really clear example of that is, for example, when we came across the audio about the masjids. Right now, in the Quran, there was already clear reference to not praying and never praying in those masjids, right? And when the Messenger of the Covenant was explaining that part based on his previous misunderstanding, I'm not saying what he's explaining here is a misunderstanding necessarily. I'm saying that what he's talking is talking about heaven in general. But the thing is that in that audio, based on that audio alone, if I draw a conclusion that now we can pray in any message, it is going against the Quran, right? And so we know that Quran is our only source of religious guidance. And so any audio, any references that we see have to be interpreted in the light of the Quran, not the other way around, right? And so based on that, if you focus on the verses in Surah 55, I believe, which the most gracious would talk about the two heavens, you know that it's not about the angels. There's one for the jinns and one for the humans, and God is very specific about the one for the jinns, one for the humans, and repeats it consistently, right? So knowing that information alone should be a guide for us to know that the paradise, the high heaven, low heaven, is just for the humans and jinns, and that's what the question was, that I mean, did we all live there or not? And I think based on those references, we understand that we we were in the depository of souls. We didn't actually live there, and the messenger explains that part as well, right? So but the high society itself is completely different. I mean, um, it's it's a special category, a special destination that's given to you, except for the part about Adam and Eve. Um, it is specifically given to people after they pass their test, or after they die below the age of 40. So, and the angels there, they greet them, but they don't live there. I mean, angels cannot live in the same paradise that God says is created for the jinns. One is created for the jinns, one is created for the humans. Then we should ponder, like, are they living in the paradise of the jinns? Obviously not. Uh, it would be unfair for the angels to live in the same place as the jinns who sided with Satan initially, but and for whatever reason they didn't go through the test either. So God, it makes sense that they would end up in separate places based on the choices they made. But I think our main guiding principle is that all audios and videos need to be looked at in the light of the verses from the Quran.
Sorry, Solomon. I just to clarify, you're saying that paradise is different from heaven. Is that what you're saying?
I think the
No, no,
paradise
I'm not
is a
saying.
place
I'm
within
saying some.
heaven. It's within the
Yeah.
seventh, the first universe, and the high society. I mean, it's there's heaven, right? And then within heaven, closest to God, the lower, and then the higher, that's a specific paradise that Adam and Eve were in, and that's the one we're returning to. But we were not there. Um, we were in the high society, I mean, like, if we go back to the Quran, and I mean, even the messenger, I've heard him talk about the distinction between the two, in the sense that we were in the high society. Adam and Eve were the only ones in the paradise, So that's
So we were not, so where were we? The high society, the feud took place in the high society, in the Mala al Ala. That's what it is in the Arabic. And then we failed to take God's side. And then we took two chances to lose. We lost two other chances. So where were we? We were not in the high society. We were in heaven.
I guess maybe, yeah, the depository, if you want to think of it like that. I mean, even God tells Adam and Eve to go into paradise, So it's not, if you're already in heaven, if that's supposed to be paradise, He wouldn't, say go into heaven because you're already there. He said go into paradise, and I don't want to say the rest of the verse because I don't remember it exactly, but and then He just warned them, I guess, of the.
I just need to read the introduction probably again.
That's
Because
how I've always understood of the paradise. They're two separate, just based on the Quran. And there's this distinct,
two
it's a
separate for
place. The
humans and
messenger
jinns,
said
you
it's a
mean?
place. It's the paradise is a place within the first universe. I also heard him say that. So, or within, I guess the higher part of the, heaven with a capital H, and somewhere. I mean, these places are probably so huge. So, somewhere the high society is somewhere within.
Okay, so I don't understand what are some of the messages. It says in the video, the messenger explains only Adam and Eve are in the paradise. Yes, mashallah, I agree with this. I said we were in a separate place. Our souls, but it says Adam and Eve were in paradise, and only Adam and Eve's souls were there. So yes, so the paradise that Adam and Eve were, it was Adam and Eve there, and then Satan tricked them. So yeah, we know that part. And we were already in the soul depository before that. I understand, but before we go to the soul depository and go through the first death, we were in paradise. We were in a
No, we
separate
were
No,
in the
we
high.
paradise.
were in the high
Where
We were in the
where
society.
high.
were we?
Paradise is I mean, if you think of it like this, like paradise is, if you want to think of it like, I mean, reward bait. I mean, it's not just, it's we weren't in paradise. We were in the high society.
We were
That's
in the
that's
high
in the
society.
Quran. Yeah, that's in the Quran.
So we were in the Mala al Allah. So we were in where God and angels were. We were in this. We were in this. Yeah, I understand as well. So we were in where whatever that place is. I before before we go through the first death, and in the paradise in Adam Eve were is a different paradise. So when we die, we go to paradise. Well, inshallah, when I say we go, I mean the believers go to the same paradise as Adam and Eve were until the day of judgment. And once the day of judgment comes, we go to the gardens of, I'm going to say we, inshallah, God willing, but we will be with the believers. So the believers would go to the gardens of Eden, which is one for human and one for the jinn, which is different from the garden from heaven that Adam and Eve were. Is that your understanding? Anyway, so I'll read the introduction again, inshallah, and we'll try to we'll think about it again.
Yeah, and also, we have to think like, why does the messenger consistently say that, we'll go to the same paradise where Adam and Eve once lived? Why would it have to be Adam and Eve? We can just say we'll go to the same paradise where we once lived, because in that case, we all lived
Yes,
in paradise, but there's no
yes.
place where he says that we lived in paradise.
But then the place that Adam and Eve is a place that believers go after they die until the day of judgment.
Yes,
So on the
yes.
day of judgment,
So
God
them
says
being,
heavens are and said the paradise is presented then to the believers. So that is a
yes,
different paradise that is presented to the believers on the day of
yes.
judgment, right? Exactly. I understand the same. Yes.
So
Yes.
paradise is part of the heaven,
Yes.
but it's not all heaven, right?
Yes. So the
Like,
one that is going to be
yeah.
presented on the day of judgment is
Mhm.
is the more marvelous one. So all marvelous, but that's the ultimate destiny, inshallah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then the messenger of the covenant explains how, the when God says also in the Quran that, the people the humans who choose to side with God's absolute authority
Hmm.
these are the best creatures,
Hmm.
right? So it, even though angels
Yes.
sided with God's absolute authority, it doesn't say they're the best creatures,
Yes.
right? But I mean, the humans who make the choice, the creatures,
Are the best creatures. Yes.
obviously, yeah, the best creatures. So I mean, of course, they're rewarded for that.
Yes. And the
Yeah.
worst creatures are the disbelievers. Gosh.
Hmm.
Okay. Gosh. Yes, I absolutely agree. So the heaven that the Adam and Eve were, it's a sole depository for the believers at the time of death, the second death. And well, not the second death. I mean, like when they leave this earth, they go to that heaven where Adam and Eve are, and that's like a sole depository before the day of judgment. And on the day of judgment, when everyone's resurrected, the gardens of Eden are presented to the believers, and the hell is created. Yeah, yeah. Thank you. Okay. Any other comments or questions? Okay, so inshallah, we're gonna finish today's session. And thank you very much, everyone, for joining and for listening as well. And I hope you have a great and blessed evening or day wherever you are. Thank you very much. Assalamu alaikum, everyone.
Assalamu alaikum. Thank you. God bless.
Assalamu alaikum.